Hello everyone, I'm Burrito1322 and welcome to the recap of the third round of the Multi-Class Endurance Championship across all platforms. This was held on R.O.N Raceway in the Vans class. The GT1 drivers were in Gang Burritos, the GT2 drivers were in Yougas, and the GT3 drivers were in Bobcat XLs. Now, this has been a while to get this video out. I've had a lot going on since basically the end of round 3 and the start of round 4. I didn't have a chance to make this video, so I'm actually recording this just before round 5 is about to start, so forgive me if this isn't quite as detailed as what the other recap videos have been or will be in the future. But yeah, it's difficult going back all this time and trying to think of what happened. But again, as always, we'll start with the Xbox side. GT1 on the Xbox side, and for this round, Nismo took a great win. He was quite far back. Certainly behind me if you did watch the highlights video, and remember I'll leave all the links to the highlight videos for my perspective on these races in the description, because I do race on all 3 platforms. Nismo was a guest driver once again on the Xbox One, and he took a sorry, not once again, he will be once again for round 4, but that's next week. Yeah, Nismo was a guest driver making his return to the championship, if you like, from being in it in season 2, and he took a great win. He was way down the order behind me at one point, and I was, this is after I'd missed the first 2 checkpoints. He was way down the order, and he managed to come back up through the field and eventually take that win. Troa came in 2nd place in GT1 after having a really good race at the front pretty much all the way through, and just a really solid race. Ultimately was beaten by Nismo, but it was very close between him, Nismo, and also Crazy Man as well, who came in 3rd place. It was very close between all 3 of those all the way through the sort of final stages of the race, and it was a really good battle there in GT1. And I did mention this, I think, a little bit during the highlights video, that it's very interesting, the GT1 battle on Xbox One, because I'm currently leading that. I'm at the top of the championship for GT1, which is not what I was expecting. I can certainly hold my own against GT1 drivers every now and again, certainly whether it's PS4 or PC or Xbox One, but I'm not putting in the kind of practice that other people are. I'm not being able to have the time, in addition to running the championship, to being able to put in the same amount of practice on all 3 platforms for all 3 championships. It's just not possible. For me personally, the enjoyment I get from racing in this is just completing all of the races and trying to get through all 30 of the races all season. But yeah, I haven't actually won a race in the GT1 side on Xbox One, but I'm still leading the championship, and I have been from the start. And the reason for that is that we've got reserve drivers taking the wins. So in round 1 we had Zenvo take the win in GT1 on Xbox, and he was a reserve driver, so he's not part of the main championship. For round 3, Nismo has done the same thing. Again, a reserve driver, not part of the championship. So the 15 points that you can get from winning a race are kind of being taken away. The opportunity to get those is being removed. And I've had 2 second places in round 1 and 2. Second place is the 12 points for second place is becoming the new first place points, because that's the maximum score for the people who are regularly in the championship. And we're seeing much bigger variation in the people who are winning the races and getting the top positions. Some people who were further down the order in round 1, say, are coming up and winning and doing really well, getting top 2, top 3 or something like that in the later rounds. It's very, very interesting, the Xbox One GT1 Championship, and I think it's probably the closest of all the GT1 championships across all the platforms, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops throughout the rest of the season. Now, when it comes to GT2 for this race, Sakibon, who is my teammate for the R.O.N Racing team, did a really great job and pretty much led from start to finish in GT2 on Xbox One, getting the win there from Alba and King Blaze, who is new to the championship. He came in as a replacement, and he will be in for the rest of the season. And then in GT3, the most interesting story in GT3 was that Nicholas R.O.N, who won the previous round 2, he was leading the race for quite a significant time, for the vast majority of the race, but then it came to the end of it and his batteries died in his controller, and then that gave the lead to Wolfie Bigtail, who was quite far behind, maybe 15-20 seconds behind, but going and getting new batteries for a controller takes a long time. So Wolfie Bigtail took the lead, but then was overtaken by Squillum93. This is all happening in the very last stages of the race. Squillum93 went on to win the race. Wolfie Bigtail ended up missing a checkpoint, and Nicholas R.O.N got back into second place. But yeah, the end for GT3 was quite action-packed, and I'll try to show as much of that on the screen as I possibly can. Now, when it comes to the championships, I'm not going to update the championship every single one of these videos. I did it for the last round, but I think I'll leave a sort of maybe update on round 4, round 6, round 8, round 10, something like that, because it's very difficult to read anything into it in this stage. And as I said in the previous recap video, it's going to mean a lot more in the later stages of the championship as to how it's all working out, and I'll talk a lot more about that in future videos. So we'll move on straight away to the PC side, and the GT1 battle on the PC side was relatively interesting, I would say. Avivo Jr. actually got his first win of the season on this, beating out Doom Penguin 44. They were pretty much neck and neck all the way through the race. Doom Penguin was obviously our winner in round 1 and round 2, so this is the first round on PC GT1 that he hasn't won, but he did manage to come in second, so he's still in a very strong position in terms of the championship. Super Stepper was a lot further behind. He'd actually finished second in round 1 and 2. He had a bit of a nightmare race, missing checkpoints, but in the third place guy in GT1 was actually Fab Iceman. Now, Fab Iceman was making his return to the championship. He couldn't do round 1 and round 2, but for round 3 he was back with a good performance, a solid performance to come into third place. Just to give you a bit of history, Fab Iceman won the Season 2 MCEC on PC for GT1, so he does have some history with this championship, although we haven't seen him in round 1 and round 2, and he's managed to say only a third place in round 3. I expect him to feature near the top end in future rounds as well, because he did win the championship. He is a GT1 champion, and yeah, he's making his return to the championship this time out. Now in GT2, Cameraman 1329 was the victor there. He came into the championship as a replacement for another driver, and his first race he got the win straight away, and he was miles ahead really. And I think that there was some really good racing on R.O.N Raceway in vans, and I think it was probably, it was very difficult to choose what class of vehicle to have on R.O.N Raceway, to be honest, because the supers have kind of been overdone. It's a very traction oriented circuit, and a lot of vehicles have a lot of traction, and it's very difficult to put a class on there that's relatively interesting for such a long race and a long event. But I think there were a lot of interesting battles with the vans because they're so heavy and so bulky on all of the platforms, unless you were on your own. If you got off in the lead like Cameron did in GT2 on PC, it was incredibly boring, and I can certainly attest to this in terms of my GT3 performance on PC, which I'll talk about in a second. But if there was nothing really to keep you entertained in terms of battles or things like that, it was just so boring, and that was a problem. But yeah, Cameron got a huge win in GT2 on PC for this round. The bad loser came in second, and Blah came in third place. So not too bad, not pretty interesting. Again, the GT2 battle on PC is quite close, and there's a lot of variation there, very similar to the GT1 battle on Xbox One. Now in GT3, I came third place because I removed the turbo, and I mentioned this in previous videos that because I want to make sure there's a balance of performance there from my performance compared to everybody else in GT3, I removed the turbo from the Bobcat XL. It did have an effect. I was about maybe 2 seconds a lap off the pace because of that, but it did provide that balance. I got a third place in that race, and at least it provided some level of balance such that I'm not at the front all of the time, and that's not really what I want it to be. So there is that aspect, but again, it was very, very boring because I was pretty much miles ahead of 4th place, miles behind 2nd place. There was nothing I could do, and I was just so bored all the way through, and I think that came through in the highlights video. The ultimate winner for that race was Thronebreaker, though. He's sort of been knocking on the door of a victory for quite some time, especially in round 1 and round 2. He came in 2nd place in round 2, of course. So yeah, great for him to finally get a win. And John, who is new to the championship, just came in as a replacement, came in 2nd place. Looks to be very quick, and will be interesting to see how he does throughout the rest of the championship. So now let's move on to the PS4 side. There is a little bit of controversy, I would say, with my performance and something that happened with me in this, but we'll talk about that sort of later on. We'll focus on the GT1 first of all, because there was also, I mean, I think PS4 has the majority of the controversy so far. People have calmed down a little bit from round 2, but yeah, there was a little bit of controversy going on. But GT1, it was pretty much a battle between Smithy112 and Macy all the way through. Macy obviously won the previous round, round 2. He was a runaway leader on Olympic Grand Prix. Smithy has had consistently the fastest laps in round 1 and round 2, so he's always been knocking on the door of a victory, but he's never been able to just put it all together in a race, and you know, keeps making mistakes and things like that. So it was interesting to see those two battle it out at the front, and they were pretty much miles ahead of everybody else in that race. Doodle Monopoly ended up coming out in 3rd place, but him and everybody else who were all battling in GT1 were pretty much nowhere near these two. And they had a good battle, you know. Smithy was in the lead for a certain portion, then Macy took the lead, and then there was a controversial incident with GT3 traffic that ended up giving Smithy the lead again when he went for an overtake, and there was GT3 traffic on the outside. Also took out the leader of GT3, but it was just a racing incident. There's not a lot you can really do about that. So it was a very interesting race from that perspective, and that's what I was talking about with, if you have someone to battle against and you're trying to work your way through the traffic, whilst also trying to keep your position. I think the vans did work on R.O.N Raceway. It was only really when you were on your own and not a lot to do that it started to get really boring. So yeah, Smithy was able to take the win in GT1 ahead of Macy. Macy's starting to get putting in some good performances in round 2 and round 3 there, so getting some good points. Smithy finally gets his win that he's been knocking on the door of for a while, and we'll see how the other guys can start to catch up to those two in future rounds as the championship progresses. GT2, Tom Tad got the win in GT2, as you saw right at the very end on the very last lap. It was quite galling. I don't think I've had much luck in these PS4 races, to be honest. It's my performances haven't been that great in the early stages because of the tiredness and getting used to having to do 3 races in a row. But I've also not had the best of luck when it comes to incidents and accidents and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's put me on the back foot a little bit, and I think even at this early stage, Tom Tad has had enough really good performances that he's pretty much got the championship sewn up in GT2. So I guess, you know, 2nd place for life is what I'm aiming for, even when it comes to the championship. But yeah, I finished 2nd in this race, and Evil managed to finish in 3rd. But there was a controversial moment during this race between myself and Evil. Now I'm going to talk about it after I've talked about the GT3 battle, because it deserves a little bit of focus. It deserves having a bit of time spent talking about it. But ultimately, apart from that, the GT2 battle was really, really interesting, and I had a great battle with Evil. Tom Tad obviously was able to catch us up because we were battling, and the incident that I got into with Macy, when obviously he came round and sort of lost me a lot of time, and I wasn't very happy about that, which led to the incident with Evil. Yeah, it was a up and down affair, that race, but it was very entertaining all the way through. And just like I was saying, I wasn't bored at any point throughout the course of that race, because there was always something to think about. There was always something to push for. Me and Evil were having a good battle. I felt like I lost a lot of time in the traffic. I'm not sure why that was, because normally I'm quite good with traffic, but maybe I was just giving away too much time to the GT1s or when I was overtaking the GT3s. But yeah, that was definitely my weakness there, and it allowed Tom Tad and Evil ultimately to catch up. But it was an entertaining battle all the way through. Now with GT3 on the PS4 side, Caton Hond 2011. I mean, I've never really tried to say his name properly, but it's basically Lucas. We all know him as Lucas, so similar to Cam Calling being Futuro. That's just what I'm going to say. He loves vans, and amazingly, he got the win in this race. He was in the championship for round 2, but he's obviously he wasn't there for round 1, but he's a permanent driver now, and he got a great win for GT3 in the vans class. 40 came home in 2nd place, with Jonty in 3rd, who was unfortunately taken out from the lead. But the GT3 battle, again, as it has seemed to be quite recently, it was all change all of the time, and just lead changes all the time. The overall battle in there is always very interesting. It's very close. I think it's probably it's incredible how close people can be over the course of an hour and a half, and by the time we got to the finish line and the timer ran out, it was very little distance between the top 3 and the top 4, top 5, whatever it was. So very interesting, that GT3 battle. But I think with a similar aspect to Tomtad in GT2, 40 at the moment has some really great results already that mean that he's odds-on favourite to take home the GT3 championship. He's got some excellent point scores, and because only your best 7 count, the chances to beat those points that they've already got is very, very difficult, and that there'll be a lot less chances coming along. So yeah, very, very interesting. But we'll see again how the championship goes on, and I can talk a lot more about the championship points later on in the season when it will mean a lot more. So now to go back to this incident between myself and Evil. This got a fair bit of controversy, I think, and the reason that I think people are against what I did in this situation is because they don't necessarily understand the official legal rules of racing. Now, what I did was very harsh. It was mean, I would say. It wasn't very nice, but it was a legal move because I had the inside line. I was ahead by the apex, and Evil was on the outside. He had essentially, I took the racing line away from him. Now, I've discussed this with Evil myself, and basically, came to the conclusion that he was too nice. He should have turned in on the normal racing line, and I would have had to back out of it. But because he left me space on the inside, I took it, and the resulting factor was that I couldn't turn any more than what I was. So I just took the racing line away from him because he pretty much gave me it. He left the door open. I was way ahead by the apex, and I ran him out wide. And running someone out wide in a racing situation is a perfectly legitimate legal move to do, as long as you're ahead and on the inside. Now, it's not a very nice thing to do, and when it comes to, say, random playlist racing or just racing in general in a non-competitive format, I would probably have waited for that. The fact that he missed a checkpoint, it was a bit harsh. I probably wouldn't have bothered to even go for a move like that because, who cares really in a non-competitive format. But given that I just lost the lead and lost about a 6-second lead to Evil because of the incident with Macy, I was very angry at that point. And this is a competition. This is a competitive race. I'm not going to just... I'm going to do everything in my power to try to win a race within the rules. If it's not nice, then it's not nice. But as long as it's within the rules, I'm going to do it. And that's why I made that move. That's why I didn't wait. That's ultimately why I didn't get a penalty for that, because obviously it was out of my hands. I sent it off to the commissioners, and then they made the decision. But, as far as the racing the rules of racing go, that is a perfectly legitimate legal move, and I'll leave a really good link in the description that explains the rules of racing and what you can do when overtaking and defending. And this is what I intend to cover for the racing school series. If I ever bring it back, this is what I'd love to cover. But it's very different to there was a move that Shaggy got a penalty for in round 2, where Smithy came up on the outside of him, and Shaggy basically ran him into the wall on the outside, and Shaggy got a penalty for that. And people were saying, you know, what is it? Why is there any difference? It's exactly the same move. Well, it isn't, because Smithy was on the outside making the overtake. So because he was much further ahead as well, Shaggy had to give him room. That's the rules. If someone's on the outside of you and you're not far enough up the inside of them, you have to give them room on the outside. The difference there between that and my incident is that I was well ahead by the apex of the corner. I'd taken that means that I'd taken the racing line. I had the rights to that line because I was ahead, and therefore it was up to Evo to back out of that. It wasn't up to me to back out because I had the line. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit controversial. It wasn't a very nice move, but it was a legal move, and this is a competition. You know, I'm going to be making the moves that I can make to get the win, and I think the outcry of people who are saying that I should get a penalty are just not understanding how the rules are when it comes to overtaking and defending. But again, I'm going to leave a link to that in the description if you do want more information. Specifically, Section 7 relates to this incident in particular. But yeah, I just wanted to add that in because these incidents do crop up from time to time, and it's worth discussing, it's worth talking about, because hopefully we all end up better for it in terms of knowing what to do and what not to do. I expect Evo to run me out of road at any possible next opportunity that he gets, but I expect that from anybody, and I've had that happen to me so many times in real life racing. It's just a part of it, and once you learn about it and you learn that that is a legal thing to do as long as the person is ahead, then you can better understand it and counter it in the future so you don't have any issues. But yeah, it's just racing essentially, and those are the rules around it. But yeah, again, I'll leave all the links down below in the description. But thank you guys for watching. That's pretty much it. I'll wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this wrap up video. I will be doing all of the round 4 videos very shortly, and then a round 4 wrap up video, then all the round 5 videos. I'm a little bit behind because I've had lots of things going on, but they will all come eventually and you will all see them. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Leave all your thoughts and comments and all that kind of stuff down below, and I'll see you next time.